Visitors to the Old Faithful Inn whisper about a pale young woman who drifts down the long abandoned crow's nest, her white gown floating behind her, and her head tucked neatly under her arm. Some say she's a restless bride from a century-old murder. Others claim she's just a story told by employees closing the inn down for the winter. But every year, someone new insists that they've seen her. Tonight, we're stepping into the flickering shadows of one of the most iconic lodges in Yellowstone National Park to uncover the legend of the Headless Bride. What's fact? What's fiction? And why she refuses to disappear. The Headless Bride of Old Faithful Inn.
The Upper Geyser Basin Hotel of Yellowstone National Park was nicknamed the Shack Hotel. It had burned to the ground, and from its ashes rose the Old Faithful Inn in 1904. Regulations had required the new hotel to sit at least 1/8 of a mile from Old Faithful Geyser, and early plans called for a typical Queen Anne-style structure. 29-year-old architect Robert Raymer, however, envisioned something far more daring, a towering log-built lodge reminiscent of Adirondack wilderness camps. Every log was harvested within the park, and inside the vast lobby, 3 massive stone fireplaces burned brightly, drawing the travelers together. By 1915, the inn was welcoming nearly 1,000 visitors every day. It was widely praised as the most beautiful of the 6 Yellowstone hotels. The Rock Springs Miner described guests gathering around the fireplaces, some popping corn, others dancing as music drifted down from above. High overhead loomed the crow's nest, rising 76.5 feet to the ceiling. In those early years, an orchestra played in the room at the top, while guests watched from the landings and danced on the lobby floor below. That music continued until August 17, 1959. A 7.5 magnitude earthquake shook Yellowstone. The violent tremor twisted supporting timbers in the crow's nest, making it unsafe for the growing crowds of visitors. The space was closed off, at least to the living. Over the years, witnesses have reported a single lingering presence, a headless apparition that seems unwilling to leave the Old Faithful Inn. Welcome to Pioneers of Outlaw Country, Wyoming History. I'm your host and historian, Jackie Dorothy. This special edition of Haunted Wyoming History is brought to you by Rooted in Legacy, preserving your stories so you can haunt future generations. It was the fall of 1982, and the summer season was nearing an end. 2 employees were closing the Old Faithful Inn at Yellowstone National Park for the season, and were alone in the old lodge. In the lobby, the large clock's steady tick marked the passing of time. Bellman George Borneman heard a strange noise. Knowing that people were supposed to be gone, he went to investigate the intrusion. He walked through the dark building to a balcony that overlooked the lobby. He saw nothing. George returned to his room, but then heard footsteps. Once more, he found nothing. The third time, he ran towards the sound. This time, George saw her. The transparent figure gracefully ascended the wooden steps from the crow's nest. She was dressed in a white flowing gown and appeared to be no more than a child. Tucked under her arm, she cradled her head. The bellman fled. He and the other employee left the inn immediately. But the image haunted George, and he was determined to learn who she was. During the winter of 1982, while doing research in the library at Missoula, Montana, George Bornemann claimed that he had discovered that there had been a murder at the inn in the summer of 1914. It had occurred in room 127, and this was close to the crow's nest. The tale George Bornemann shared with guests began in New York City in 1914. The wealthy owner of a shipping company had a teenage daughter who wanted to marry an older man who worked in their house as a servant. Despite her father's misgivings and being disinherited if she went through with the marriage, the young woman and the servant were wed in a quiet ceremony. The father gave the couple a substantial dowry in the hopes that this at least would get them started in their new life. His final gift was to send them back west on a honeymoon, where the family shame would be far away. They were to stay in the Old Faithful Inn's room 127. It was the place to take a fashionable vacation in 1914. They would have arrived by stagecoach. However, on the way to Yellowstone, the new husband had managed to gamble away all their money. There wasn't even enough left to pay their hotel bill. Staff at the Old Faithful Inn witnessed nightly arguments, loud enough to be heard outside of their private room. The bride sent a telegram to her father, asking for more money. The answer was no, and that he would instead send her a train ticket home. Her husband was livid. That night, the argument was louder and more violent than usual. The husband stormed out of the hotel room, slamming the door. This was the last anyone would ever see of him. A hotel maid finally ventured into the hotel room and headed to the bathroom. Her screams brought many of the staff and guests rushing in to find the young bride in the bathtub, bloody and missing her head. A few more days passed, and the summer heat brought with it a foul smell. Up in the crow's nest, where the band played happy tunes, the staff found the missing head. Over the years, sightings have been reported of the headless apparition. Guests claim to have seen a woman wearing a flowing white dress walking down the stairs from the crow's nest with her head under her arm. In 2006, now the manager of the Old Faithful Inn, George Bornemann was interviewed by Shelley LaRose, author of Yellowstone Ghost Stories. George Bornemann told Shelley that the Headless Bride actually appeared at the assistance of visitors who for years pressed him for a ghost story. The bride was pure fiction, he said. However, a part about hearing running in the hall inside the deserted hotel, that was true. And that is what gave him the idea for the story of the Headless Bride. Despite George Bornemann's claims that he had made up the story of the bride, not all visitors believed George that the Headless Bride was a myth he had invented. They still claim that they, too, have seen the transparent bride as she descends from the crow's nest, with her head cradled in her arms. Whatever the truth, the Headless Bride will continue to haunt our imagination at the Old Faithful Inn in Yellowstone National Park. Thank you for listening to this tale of haunted history. You are listening to Pioneers of Outlaw Country, and I am your host, Jackie Dorothy. This episode was brought to you by Rooted in Legacy, preserving your history. This was a production of Legend Rock Media. We all have stories worth telling, tales of family, grit, love, and resilience. But too often, those stories fade away because they were never written down. That's where I come in. At Rooted in Legacy, I help you preserve your life story or your loved ones so it will not be forgotten. Together, we'll turn memories into a lasting legacy that future generations can hold on to. If you've been wanting to preserve those family stories but didn't know where to start, I'd love to help. My website is legendrockmedia.com, or just follow the link in the show notes to schedule a free call with me, personally. Rooted in Legacy, because every story deserves to be told.